Thank you. Good morning. It seems like every summer when I come here, it's VBS time, and I kind of just thought that the church always had fun decorations going on. And this summer when I came, I thought maybe Pastor Perry was totally out there, and the church just decided to give him a proper backdrop here. But it looks great. The church looks awesome. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it out here this summer, and I've been back in Canada just for a couple months, and the prices of flights are a little bit crazy. Everything is a little bit crazy, the prices, but we have this saying at the Free Burma Rangers that if it's a good idea, then we get to pay for it, and if it's a God idea, then He will pay for it. And so I wanted to come out and be at OBC and visit everybody here, and I wasn't sure I could afford it, and so I just put it before God, and I said, God, if this is your plan, then you'll make it happen. And so I'm just humbled and very thankful to be able to be here with you guys this morning and to share, and thank you, Pastor Perry, for trusting me with the pulpit this morning. So, I'm going to just start with a word of prayer, and then I'll get into my message this morning. So if you want to just pray with me. Jesus, I come to you this morning, and I'm just so thankful to be here. I'm so thankful for OBC and the role that they've played in my life, and just the blessing that they are to me. And I just want to give the sermon to you, all the words. I just pray you would unlock my heart and unlock my lips, and just that you would be glorified this morning, that you would give me the words and the flow and the rhythm that you want, and that you've got something for us, that you're here to meet us this morning. And I just love that you're here present with us, and I just trust this sermon to you. I give you all the honor and the glory, and we pray in your holy name. Amen. I don't know why I'm feeling a little bit emotional to be here this morning, but we've lost 14 or 15 of our team members in the last 2 years in Burma, and for some reason they're on my heart this morning while I'm here, and but I'm with family, and so it's good to be here. I just want to share for those of you who don't know me, my name is David Small, and I'll just share a quick background as to why I'm here, how I ended up here. I'm stepping on a guitar pick that's stuck to my bare feet, but anyways. I was born in Ontario, born in Kenora, a small town, kind of like Oromocto, grew up in a small Baptist church, kind of like OBC, and grew up going to church, going to youth group, going to Bible camp, going to VBS, not to outer space, but all other kinds. And when I was in my 20s, I remember I read a quote. I was just about to, late teens, early 20s, and I was graduated from high school, and I was kind of floating through life. I didn't really know what to do with my life, and like many that are that age. And I remember reading this quote that said, the greatest mistake we make in life is not making a career doing what we most enjoy. And I thought, well, I don't seem to enjoy anything these days. I'm a grumpy 20-year-old teenager, kind of adolescent, and I'm fighting with my parents all the time, and I don't know what I enjoy. But then I thought about it for a few weeks. This quote just rattled around my brain, and I thought, well, you know what I do enjoy? I enjoy hockey. Like a good Canadian boy, hockey is the thing that we do. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll make a career being a hockey player. And so I started myself on this journey to become a junior hockey player, and then hopefully a semi-pro hockey player, and then hopefully a pro hockey player where I'll be famous and make millions of dollars, and I'll just live a nice, happy life. And thankfully, God had other plans for that. But I remember one evening, I was sitting with some friends at Tim Hortons, and we were debating about God, and we were debating about religion, and I was on this path to try to become a hockey player, and I suddenly just said, how can I believe in God when I can't even believe in myself? How can I believe in a God I can't see when I look in the mirror and I can see myself, and I have a hard time believing in myself. And this set me on a path. I remember the night so clearly and this word so clearly, and it just set me on a path where I wanted to live my life apart from God. I wanted to live my life on my terms, not on my mom's faith that I had been raised with. And so for most of my 20s, I wandered away from God. I left the church, I left my faith, and I kind of thought, well, you know what? It wasn't my faith anyways, it was my mom's faith. And she just would drag me and my brothers to church, kicking and screaming. And and so I went through and started to be a hockey player. I played junior hockey out in Saskatchewan for the Notre Dame Hounds. And then I went on to coach after that because I realized I'm not that good at hockey. And so I became a coach, and I got a job coaching out in British Columbia, and then I was hired to work in Penticton in the BCHL, and I was coaching there for a while. And in hockey, you know, the season ends hopefully in May or June, that you've gone late in the playoffs, but then you have the summers off. And so I decided, well, I would join the reserves and join the Canadian Army. And so I joined the Army and wasn't quite sure why, other than the fact that I thought, I like leadership, I like learning about leadership, I'll join as an officer and try to learn what the Army has to say about leadership. And I also always had this appreciation for trying to do things that made me uncomfortable or things that brought me out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I feel like the Army has a way of, you know, taking you out of your comfort zone. And so I spent 10 years in the Army, and I actually just released from the military, from the reserves last summer, although I thought I was released from the reserves, but my friend looked me up in CFTPO just last night, and they said I'm still actually in. So unbeknownst to me, I'm still in the Army, but I thought I was released from the Army a year ago, but that's another story. And it was in this time in the Army where I was sent to my basic training, and on basic training, I'm sure some of you have been through basic training, and you don't have, your timings are very tight. Everything is, you're in a rush all the time. And I remember we were eating, and I was scarfing down food, and I looked up, and across the table from me, another soldier bowed his head and just said a quick prayer, and then started to scarf down his food. And I thought, oh, he must be a Christian. I'll debate him about God, and I'll convince him that it's crazy to believe in God. And so all through training, when we had some free time and we would be cleaning our weapons or cleaning our rooms, and me and Luke, this other guy on our course, we would just debate Christianity. And he never tried to convince me of anything. He would just answer my questions. And it wasn't like he's trying to sell a used car or get me to join his network marketing business. He was just saying, this is what I believe, this is my experience with my faith, and would just answer my questions. And a year later, I was on another course in Edmonton, and Luke, my friend from the basic training, was in Edmonton, lived just near Edmonton, and in order to get off base on a weekend, you had to be going to church parade. And so I said, okay, I don't really want to be on base, and so I'm going to go to church parade. And Luke said, come to my church. And I had no interest in God. I had no interest in church. I wasn't seeking God. But I thought, I want to get off base, and I'll go and see Luke. And I went to church, and for every Sunday that I went to church off base, God pursued me. God came at me and came into my life in an undeniable way. And the way my brain works is I try to quantify things, or I try to say, like, okay, this is just a coincidence. But then the next Sunday I would come to church and God would do it again, show up and say something that was directly to me. And undeniably, as the summer went on, God was wearing me down and saying, it's okay if you're not pursuing me because I'm pursuing you. And by the end of the summer, I said to myself and to God, I said, okay, God, you must be real, because I can't quantify what's going on. I can't make it make logical sense that you're coming and you're putting things in place Sunday after Sunday after Sunday to draw me back to you. And so at the end of the summer, I gave my life to God. And I said, okay, God, whatever you want with my life, it's yours. I give my life to you. And I I was taking a year off. I had a contract offer on the table for a coaching position in Hungary, and I was not sure about it. I just kind of was thinking, and everything seemed good about the contract, but something in my guts didn't feel like it was the right thing. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to take a year off, but then I wasn't sure what to do with this year. And a friend of mine was going overseas to work in Thailand, and he said, why don't you come over to Thailand? And I was like, okay. I used to spend some time there when I was a kid. My family would go over, and I thought I'll go and visit Thailand. And so I looked up the Free Burma Rangers, and I had met the owner or the founder of the Free Burma Rangers years before, and I just said, hey, I'm going to come and volunteer for 6 months. Can you use me? And he said, yeah, we can use you. And so I went over and I volunteered for 6 months. And when I came back in the summer, I had an army posting here to Gagetown, and I started coming to OBC on Sundays and met Pastor Perry. And Pastor Perry that summer said that OBC is going to be a church of missionaries, a church that sends missionaries. And I was wrestling with this thought of, I had agreed to 6 months at Free Burma Rangers, and then I was going to go and find a real job. And God had other plans. And now I'm going into my 9th year now at the Free Burma Rangers. And and the Free Burma Rangers is an organization that was started about 25 years ago. And the mission of the Free Burma Rangers is to help people and get the news out, and work in the conflict zones in Burma, and now we're in other countries, but primarily our focus is in Burma. And there's a civil war going on in Burma. It's the longest civil war in the world. 70 plus years they've been having this civil war in Burma. And 2 years ago there was a coup that happened. There was Aung San Suu Kyi was the democratically, I put in air quotes, democratically elected leader. She never fully actually had control, but 2 years ago, the generals came and took over, and there was a military coup. They arrested everyone in 5 minutes. The coup from start to finish took 5 minutes. It was so well planned, so well executed, and now the military has taken over. And since the coup happened 2 years ago, the country has erupted in chaos. The economy has stopped, banks are closed, universities are shut down, everything is on pause right now. And the majority of the citizens have fled from the cities and joined the resistance that has been fighting for 70 years in the mountains, in the hills, and now there's just all-out war in Burma. And we haven't seen war like this in Burma basically since World War II. The casualties and the death rate is unprecedented in Burma. And the Burmese army is backed by Russia and China, so they're getting a lot of support and weapons. They've got great technology, great weapons, and the resistance is fighting with whatever they can find. They've got pitchforks and machetes, they've got muskets, they've got guns that if they can buy a good gun, and typically it's one gun for every 2 to 3 soldiers on the front line. And then bullets, that's a whole other thing. But they're all fighting back, and there's a big war, big resistance happening now. And I suddenly find myself in the middle of it. And this was never something I imagined that I would be doing, never something I imagined I'd be called to. And even when I was joking with some friends last night that, in the Canadian Army, they teach you how to shoot these big guns and these weapons. I was an artillery officer, so that, we learn how to shoot the artillery. But in Burma, we're on the receiving end of this stuff, and the Army doesn't teach you very well how to be on the receiving ends of bombs and bullets and artillery, and that's a whole nother ballgame. When I first went over to start being a missionary, I actually wasn't quite sure about this term missionary, and if I would consider myself a missionary or not. I thought missionaries needed to be, the best of the congregation, the ones that God is especially close with, the ones that know their Bible inside and out and have special training, and I didn't have any of that stuff. And so I thought, well, I can't consider myself a missionary, even though God's called me to go overseas. So I struggled with this term missionary a little bit. And I also struggled with, when I went overseas, I had to trust God with my money. And I was raised in a way that if you want something, you get a job, you earn money, you save money, and then you can buy what you want. But you don't just get it without having to work for it. And so when I went to be a missionary, I thought, I don't know how to do this support raising thing. And when I went over there in my second time around, I had completely spent all my savings in my first year over there and thought, oh, it's okay because I'll get another job, a coaching job, and I'll make money again and I'll move on with my life. But then when God called me back over there permanently, I thought, I can't do this money thing. I can't do this support raising thing. And I remember just this feeling of God saying, oh, good, I'm glad you've gotten to that point where you realize you can't do it without me. Let me do it. And I felt like God was saying, just write a budget and give it to me. So I made a budget. I wrote down, okay, it's going to cost me this much for food, this much to live, this much for my transportation and my phone and all these things. And I just said, okay, I'm putting this before you, God. I need $800 a month to live. And I felt God saying, okay, take that money out of the bank every month. You don't have to ask anybody for it. You don't need to make any big deal. You just have to trust me. And so I would do that. And when I went over to Thailand, I actually had $800 in my bank account. And I thought, okay, well, I can live for a month, and then I'm not sure what's going to happen after that. And so I went over there, and for the first month, it got towards the end of the month, and I'd logged into my online banking, and I had like $12 left in my account. And I remember this like sick feeling in my stomach, like in the pit of my stomach, like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? Like, am I going to have to go back? I can't even afford a flight to get home. How am I going to survive? But then I remembered, no, God said to trust him. God said he would provide. And if God said he's going to provide, and I'm really sure about that, I don't need to worry. I don't need to feel this anxious feeling in my guts about it. I can just let it go and trust God. And so I said, okay, God, I trust you, and let it go. And every month for the last 9 years, God has given everything that I need to live over there. And it's just been this practice of these things that I learned in the church about trusting God, and God is faithful, and God will provide. These were just theory lessons in my brain as a young guy growing up in the church until I had to go and actually live them out and practice them. Then they became real. They became not just these nice ideas, but they came something that I could actually build my life upon. And so this idea of trusting God has been something that he's been taking me through and learning over and over and over again. And this past year that I've been in Burma, I've had to choose to trust God in new ways. And I kind of thought, oh, okay, God, I've learned to trust you with my finances. I learned that when you say you're going to provide, you'll provide. But then I was in Burma this year, and I was in the jungle for about 5 months, and almost every day the jets would come and drop bombs or do strafing runs. And a year or so ago, the Burma army was really pushing on the ground. They were really focused on their ground attack. A lot of artillery, mortars, a lot of bullets, a lot of landmines, but they're actually losing the ground battle. And so they've switched to the air, and they're flying jets, and they're doing strafing runs. They fly MiG and Yak fighters, and they're really quite good. They're accurate jets. They're high technology. And the jets are designed in a way that you don't actually hear them on their approach. You only hear them when they're either right on top of you or already over you. And at this point, if they're going to drop a bomb, you don't have much time. You've got like seconds in order to get on the ground. And the Burma army often bombs in the middle of the night. Their typical window is 11 to 3 in the morning, this time of the day or the night when you're kind of at your most vulnerable, sleeping or trying to sleep. And for me, I am a bit of an anxious guy sometimes, and I was having a hard time sleeping. I was going to bed every night fearing these planes. I was fearing a bomb being dropped on me in the middle of the night. And I don't really like admitting that I'm an anxious person, but I remember thinking this year, well, if there's something to actually be anxious about, it's getting a 500-pound bomb dropped on your head while you're sleeping. That's, I feel like, worthy of some anxiety. But I wasn't sleeping. For months at a time, I wasn't sleeping. And every night I would go to bed, but any noise, I'd think, oh man, it's going to be a jet approaching. Or any crackle on the radios, it would be like our early warning system. And I would jump up and think, oh man, the jets are coming. And you have about 6 seconds from the time that you get a warning or the jet is being heard before an impact would happen. From the time you can hear the plane and the pilot releases the bomb, you have roughly 3 to 6 seconds. And in the middle of the night when you're dead asleep, in your blankets, under a mosquito net, in your house, for me, it takes more than 6 seconds to get to a bunker, to get to a trench. And I was having this hard time sleeping and staying asleep. And for those parents, you probably know that when you have multiple days of not sleeping, your brain is like in a bit of a fog. And I had to just say that I had to just choose to trust God in this. And this was a new thing because this was like an intentional trusting. Before bed every night, I would just I pause and I would pray and I just said, Jesus, I trust you. I trust you. And I would have to say this prayer over and over 3, 4, or 5 times until my brain and my heart and my guts came into agreement with what I was actually praying. That I actually believed in my guts, I can trust Jesus tonight to keep me safe. Because if it's only up to me, I can't do it. If it's only up to me to be a fast runner to get to a bunker, I can't do it. I can't make it in time. Or I've just got to go and live my life in a bunker and sleep in the hole. But there's still things that need to happen. And these verses started to really come alive this year for me. And I'm going to read a couple of them that just stood out. The first one is Proverbs 18. It says the name, and actually the verse that was read this morning, that's another verse that I just think is amazing. But this one, Proverbs 18 says, the name of the Lord is a strong fortress. The godly run to him and are safe. Another translation says a strong tower or a fortified tower. Psalm 91, one of my favorite psalms. This I declare about the Lord. He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust him. Psalm 46, God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Jeremiah 16, O Lord, my strength and my stronghold, my refuge in a day of distress. The Bible tells us that God is our refuge, our strong tower. And I started to think about, like a Braveheart movie or these old castles. And when God says he's our strong tower or our fortress, I would think about these old castles and just think like when you're in the castle and behind these big, thick walls, you're safe. You're not on the front line anymore. You can actually go into the castle and you can get a good night's sleep, not having to worry about things. And God is saying, I'm that place. I'm that place. Really, I'm that place where you can go and you can rest. And I had to intentionally choose to trust God every night. I had to choose actively, God, I trust you. I trust you with my life. I trust you. It's not just a trust of knowing the Bible says God will take care of us. It was an active choosing that I had to do. I had to do every night, every day. I had to choose to trust God with my life. And I started to think about the story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they're going to get thrown into the fire in the furnace, and they say, oh, tonight my God will deliver us. But if he doesn't, and it's that part, but if he doesn't, that really stuck out to me. Surely God will deliver us, but if he doesn't. And it made me think about the Apostle Paul. He says, to live is Christ, to die is gain. Wow, that's got to be true. That's got to be true. Tonight, when I go to sleep and the jets come, surely God will save me. Surely God will deliver me. But if not, to die is gain. I get to go and be with Christ. And that's amazing. And I was able to start to sleep again, but it took this active choosing of trusting. At the Free Burma Rangers, we have some principles of leadership that we teach. And one of our principles of leadership is don't be led by comfort or fear. And this was something I had to learn to do, to not be led by comfort or fear. And when we're training new rangers or new teams, we get up before the sun, we do PT, we're doing our physical training, and often I'm warm in my bed and don't want to get up, and especially if I've had a bad sleep, I don't really want to get out and do PT and do a cold bath after PT. But this is being led by comfort. If I just choose, I'm going to stay in my comfort little bubble, then okay, I'm not going to get up and do the things I need to do. I'm not going to do the duty that God has called me to be a part of. You know, we have this term, my comfort zone. This, don't get into my comfort zone, or I don't want to get out of my comfort zone. And we don't like to be uncomfortable. And so for me, it's often when I think about I'm making a decision, I ask myself, am I choosing the answer or the direction of this decision based on comfort? Because I don't want to be uncomfortable, or because I want to stay comfortable? Is that guiding my decision? And then fear is the other side of it. Don't be led by fear. And I remember a time where it was one of my first times where I'd been fired at by the Burma Army. And the base that was shooting at us had snipers. And these are Chinese trained snipers. They're quite good. And I remember being in the trench and in the hole, and the sniper was shooting around, and I kind of thought, like, I had all these thoughts in my head. Man, the sniper can see me. If I get up and move, he'll shoot me right away. And I was frozen in the hole, in the trench. But there was things happening. There was people that needed care. There were people that needed to be moved to a safe place. Civilians that were caught in this little battle that was happening. And if I was just stuck in my hole, I couldn't do the duty that God had called me to. I couldn't do my job that I was supposed to do to help people. And so I had to choose to just turn my brain off when it came to fear and not let fear guide me. Because if I let fear guide me, I just live in the trench. I just live in a hole instead of getting up and doing the things I need to do. We get concerned a lot about our own safety. We're going to provide for ourselves. We're going to protect ourselves. We have our safe place. And at Free Burma Rangers, we say, don't be led by comfort or fear. And so as I, kind of towed the party line for a while, I started to think, well, if we're not letting comfort lead us and we're not letting fear lead us, what's going to lead us? And the answer is God. The answer is love. Let love lead you. I want to read some verses. 1 John, verse 4, it says, "Dear friends, let us continue to love one another, for love comes from God. Anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God. But anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love." Let love lead you. Let love be the guiding thing in your decision making. Not comfort, not fear, not pride. Let love be the guiding thing. 1 Corinthians 13. This one always speaks to me because I'm pretty terrible at languages, and over there I have to try to speak 4 or 5 different languages, and I mess them all up. But it says, if I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I'd only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and I understood all God's secret plans and possessed all the knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains, but I didn't love others, I'd be nothing. If I gave up everything, if I gave everything to the poor and I sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. We're nothing without love. Matthew 22. They asked Jesus, "Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses?" And Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. My only job is to love people. My only job is to love people. And when I am led by love, it helps making decisions so much easier. God, what do you want me to do? What is love in this? What is loving in this situation? We don't let fear make a decision. We don't let comfort make a decision. We let love guide us in the decision making. My only job is to love people. It makes it so much easier. I'm actually not very good at it, loving people. I have to ask God to help me with it. God, help me to love somebody today. Help me to love people in front of me. Some people are annoying. But we have to love them. And so we get to ask God, God, help me to love this person. What does it look like to love? Matthew chapter 5 talks about being salt and light. It says, you are the salt of the earth. What good is salt if it's lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It'll be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. It says, you are the light of the world. OBC is the light of the world. OBC is the salt in this community. Like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. How do I be salt and light in Oromocto? How do I be salt and light in Burma? Or in my family? In my work? And I started to think about, what does that look like? And I realized one thing about salt, and I love salt, but salt requires touch in order for it to work. If you just leave salt in the jar on the table, it doesn't do much good. But when salt touches something else, comes in contact with someone else, something else, it actually starts to work. And I thought, well, that's what salt's about. Being salt in the world means we need to get into other people's lives. We need to get our orbits into their orbits and actually come in contact with them. Bump into people. Because salt requires touch. It adds flavor. It preserves. That's what OBC does. It gets into the community. It gets into people's lives. It helps preserve people. It helps bring flavor into people's lives. And light, to be light. Light comforts. Light expels darkness. Light guides our path. That's what OBC does. That's what OBC does in this community. It expels darkness. It comforts those that need comfort. It helps guide people on the path that God is laying out in front of them. Our only job is to love people. Our only job is to be salt and light in this community. As I spent time in missions work overseas, there's a term that missionaries use quite regularly called business as missions. And business as missions is it's not used so much in Thailand because Thailand is an open country, but in countries that are closed down all around Thailand, like China, for example, you can't just go and be a missionary there. You can't just open a church or plant a church there. And so often what people do is they go there on a legitimate visa and a work permit to open a business. And they run an actual legitimate business. And this is their business as mission, that they say, okay, I'm going to open a travel agency or a tourist agency or a corner shop or a little coffee shop, and I'm going to run this business, and all the people that come to my business and all the employees that I hire and the people that work in the shops next to me, that's my mission field. Those are the people that I'm going to share my faith with, that I'm going to get to know them. I'm going to invite them to my home. And so this idea about business as missions is a popular model for missionaries to follow. And I started to think about that this year with the Free Burma Rangers, and I thought, well, what is our business as mission? And I thought, well, it's going to the front lines. It's going and saying to somebody, hey, I'm not leaving you. Even if we die, we're going to die together, but I'm not leaving you. I'm going to stay with you. Because that's what Jesus does. He doesn't leave us. He stays with us. And when you have that opportunity, and for those that have served in the military, I'm sure you know that there are people that you do hard things with, dangerous things with, and a bond is formed. And through that bond, you have an opportunity to be real and honest with each other and share things with each other, and you can share your faith with each other. And the thing that I just want to encourage this morning to OBC and to each of you that are here listening is that you're just as much a missionary as I am. It's not just the select few that are called and go somewhere overseas that are missionaries. You're just as much a missionary as I am. What is the business as mission that God has put in your life? Mark 13, it says, the gospel must first be preached to all nations. 1 Chronicles 16:24, declare his glory among the nations. Declare his glory among OBC, among your community. What has he done in your life? How has he provided for you? How has he protected you and your family? Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all people. Matthew 24, the gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the whole world as a testimony to all nations. Mark 16, Jesus said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. And most famously, Matthew 28, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Jesus doesn't just call a select few to do this job, this great commission. He calls all Christ followers to do it. You're a missionary. You don't need to go to a special school. You don't need to take a special training or a course. You don't even need to go to China or to Asia or to Africa. You're a missionary right here this morning in Oromocto, in your schools, in your work, in your classes, in your jobs. If you don't think you're living in a war zone in Oromocto, I don't know what to say. I've been called to Burma. I never thought this is where I would end up. I never thought I would end up on the front lines of a war zone where there's actual bullets and bombs and actual war stuff happening. But if you don't think there's a war going on in Oromocto, you're wrong. You're a missionary on a war zone, the same as I am. You have a business as mission opportunity in your life. You have people you come in contact with every day that you can be a witness to, that you can share what God has done in your life. I have two brothers, and neither of them are following Jesus. And I often pray for them, and I have other Christian friends or other non-Christian friends, and I often pray for them, and I pray, God, I just pray that you would bring a Christian friend into their life. And I've been praying this for a while, and I think it's a great prayer, but one time I was praying it, and I just felt God saying, hey man, you are that Christian friend. Oh, and I kind of, well, bring another Christian friend, like. But God has put people in our lives, put people in our paths to share our story with. And so my challenge to you is to be bold in your faith. Be bold in the things of Jesus. Don't be afraid of what might happen. Don't be led by comfort or fear. It's totally uncomfortable, and sometimes it can be even dangerous or scary to go to people and to go to places or to stand for your faith, but don't be led by comfort or fear. Be bold in your faith. And maybe we have this deep fear that, what if God doesn't come through? What if it's actually not real? What if I put all my cards on the table and God doesn't protect me or doesn't provide? So maybe I'm just not going to say anything. We fear that. But he does come through. He does provide. Every opportunity in my life, God has given to me and shown me over and over again, beyond anything I can do or control, that he will protect, he will provide. Those things in the Bible that he says, that he promises to us, are true. You can build your life on it. You can trust your life on it. God is trustworthy. When we give our lives to Jesus and we choose to trust him, he's going to take us to the ends of the earth, but also the ends of our communities. And sometimes it's actually easier to go to the end of the earth instead of the end of your community. And so my challenge to you is to be bold, to be a missionary church, to be a church that is a salt and light in this community. And I'll just tell you, I'll give you kind of missionary 101 or sharing the gospel 101. I do, when I share the gospel with people and I get involved in people's lives, I share the gospel in 4 steps. The first is about God. God created you and me. He created all that's around us that's beautiful and good. He wanted to have this beautiful creation, and so he is the creator. And it doesn't matter where you go in the world or who you talk to. People can get behind, for the most part, the idea of a creator. I know there's a whole other realm of thinking there, but when you look at how beautiful the earth is, when you look at this, it's not an accident. God created this, and he created you and me. And the second step in this is you and me, this mankind that God created, but we chose a life separate from God. I chose a life in my 20s separate from God. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to provide for myself. I'm going to protect myself. I don't need God. And sometimes in North America, I find church to be a little bit like travel insurance. You know, you've got it in your back pocket. You hope you don't need it, but you'll make your deposit or your payment. But in reality, you can provide for yourself. You can protect yourself. You don't have bombs being dropped on you here. So it's very easy to live this life separate from God. And so mankind chose a life separate from God. But God still wanted to be in a relationship with us. God wanted to pursue us. Even though I wasn't pursuing God, he came after me. And there had to be a way, a sacrifice that could be made for all of us to get us back in a relationship with God. And so he sent Jesus, his son. And Jesus walked on the earth and lived here and died on the cross so that we can be in a relationship with God. He rose again. So the first step is God. The second step is man. The third step is Jesus. And the fourth step is a response. You get to respond to that story. Because God's not going to knock your door down. He's not going to kick it in. He's not going to force you to do anything. You get to choose. You get to respond. And this morning, you get to respond to the call that God has for your life. This morning, you get to respond with either giving your life, whatever you're holding on to that you're not giving to God, you get to respond and give it to God. And if you want to just close your eyes, and I'm going to close in prayer. And maybe you've never given your life to God. Maybe you've never responded to that message, the gospel message. Maybe this morning God's nudging your heart, that gentle whisper. Or maybe you've given your life to God but have drifted away, and you need to do it again. You need to bring your heart back to God. And so I just want you to take a minute here with your eyes closed to respond to the gospel, to respond to that message that God wants to be in a relationship with you, and Jesus died for that. Take a minute and just talk to God. Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. Whatever you want to do, wherever you want me to go, I give you my life. Jesus, help me not to be led by comfort or fear, but to be led by your spirit of love. I give you my life. Jesus, I thank you that I don't have to earn your love and forgiveness. I don't have to have my life all together. You accept me as I am this morning. I give you my life. And Jesus, I just pray for OBC. I just pray that each person would, you would just put on their heart someone or some way that they can be salt and light. Someone in front of them that they need to love and share their testimony with, share their story with. And you'll do the rest. Jesus, let OBC Church be salt and light in this community. I just pray a blessing over its leadership. I just pray a blessing over this congregation that is so dear to you. As we, come towards the end of summer and into the fall, just give us a vision for what you want for our lives. Let us be bold. Let us be bold to share the gospel. Jesus, I love you so much. I thank you for OBC Church, and I thank you for their role in my life. And I just give you all the honor and glory and pray in your holy name. Amen. Thank you.